So I am a musician of a band called Flintface. Kind of a silly name, but it's got a not so silly meaning. The band consists of my wife and myself, Beth and myself, and sometimes we bring in other musicians for live shows. Obviously for sessions, we have great people here that help me out at Immersive. That made it sound great. And yeah, so that's the long and short.
So when and why did you start making music?
My dad was a pastor of a church in Philadelphia, moved to West Philadelphia and then north, and we just needed music. A lot of small churches just need anybody that can play anything. I picked up the drums, and I started playing drums, and my mom played keyboard, and that was my introduction to music. And I think the construction of a song was what got me deeper into the process, and it was interesting that you could make a whole thing, but just adding more instruments, and then you have a thing.
What did you learn to play after the drums?
I learned to play guitar after the drums. I messed around with keyboard a little bit, but I never got past the basic chords. And, guitar was just cool. I was 15, 16. I was trying to impress people. That's the bottom line. Wanted to shred. I'm 44. I still can't shred. So,
You can play the drums.
Yeah, right. It's a pain to move around. The early days of Flintface, we were a two-piece metal band. So it was my little brother, he played guitar, and he was drop-tuned to A sharp, and it was just real thick and aggressive. And then I was a drummer and singer. And so drums were just such a great way to like blow out energy. But man, they really are a pain to carry around and set up. Once you like, I'm gonna play guitar, and then once you start carrying just a case, you're like, I'm not going back. I'll find a drummer to do this.
So why Flintface?
Flintface, yeah. So it came from Isaiah 50 verse 7 in the Bible. In summary, it says, "Don't be ashamed or confused, but set your face like a flint and don't be moved." It's kind of a message of resilience. So at the time, I was probably, it was like 2001, so I was like 22 when I started the band. And I had been sexually abused when I was a kid. And as through my teens, I really struggled with that, depression, suicide, all those things. And it was the 90s, so we didn't talk about it like we do now. It was just get over it or just don't talk about it. And so I didn't talk about it when I was around 22-ish. So in my head, I was thinking, I'm never going to have a great day, but I can get through the day. Like if I could just get to lunch, that was an accomplishment. If I could just get to dinner, that was an accomplishment. And so my mindset was always about resilience, just not necessarily being a boss. It was about, and not even gracefully, but just making it to the next day. So that's where the name came from. Sorry, getting a little...
No,
anyway.
No, thank you for sharing that. What is your why for continuing to make music?
So initially, when I started doing music, it was like I said, it was fun. It was aggression. It was, metal, and it was just a good time. And then as I got older and the message got incorporated a little more, it became more of a vehicle to me. So the music was always important, the quality, trying to do the best that I'm capable of doing with my resources and people around me. So it was a vehicle to reach people. Now, I would say it's still a vehicle, but the way I see it, it's like, it's just a place of what I know. It's just, I just feel this is just what it is. It's so strange. Like we all have our places we feel like we belong, and it's just a place of comfort now at this point. It's just where I belong.
What genre would you consider your music to be?
Genre-wise, I would say it's probably acoustic rock, if that's even I'm sure it's something. I mean, I'd say almost every show at this point is acoustic. I mean, there were times where we travel with like, I think a 6 or 7 piece band, and it was really big and cool. But in reality, I think even some of the bigger bands are stripping down their tours because of the cost. And so in order for us to, like, I say us, it's my wife and me, but now she's like homeschooling, and so she can't travel yet. Our children are really young, but as they get older, maybe we'll get a fifth wheel and go as a family again. But 90% of the time, it's probably all acoustic and my voice. So I think that's really important because it challenges the writing process now, because you can't just slap a bunch of icing on a song Like if it can't hold water with like the vocals and an acoustic guitar, I can't even play it live. Even if it turns out to be a really cool song recorded, it's kind of like wasted, you know. So I have to make sure everything translates live, acoustic, one voice, which is a challenge when you're in front of 1,200, 2,000, 3,000 children, like kids, middle school, high school kids, who are used to like that polished ear candy. So there's like multiple layers of challenges.
Because you're mostly playing in schools. Part of your message is to go to schools and spread mental health awareness, right?
Yeah, we did tons of venues, and then there was a point where we were doing a venue in the evening and a school during the day, and on the road. And that was a little rough, but I think we all know that venues have changed. Like when I first started, we could play some random hole in the wall or some kid's basement, and there'd be like 80 to 150 kids just there going nuts, you know, and it was a great time. And then around, I don't even know the year, around Mumford and Son 2000-ish is when shows started dying out. And, you know, obviously there's these big ticket shows, but even those, I hear people complaining about the cost, because the cost it takes to even do a show anymore. So live music, I think, is slowed down. The purpose of me doing music changed from that just having fun in that environment to a meaning, to now I need to be utilitarian with my music and get something done with it. If I don't make everything I do with music meaningful and have a reason for doing it, I don't think I can do anything else. I don't think I have any time to do anything else than that. But yeah.
Do you think your connection with your music changed when you went from bar venues to performing in schools?
Yeah. It got way more serious, obviously. I was very scared to start playing schools, and it wasn't like a choice. We didn't actually set out to play schools. We had a fan of ours die by suicide. Goodness, I want to say around 2005, and we had fans MySpace us about it and say like, hey, they're really not talking about it at the schools. And in that chunk of time, they were still not really talking about it because they felt it would incur more suicides. So we were like, well, we'll talk about it. It was around 2006, and we started just talking about it online, and we had like families starting to meet with us, like mothers and fathers and brothers and family members of people who had died by suicide, and it was super overwhelming. We didn't know what to do with that. We weren't trained anything. We were just musicians. I mean, it was me and my brother at the time. And at that point, we had done so much with it that we were kind of known for that. And so that's how the school thing happened. And with venues dying out, we just decided if we're going to be productive, let's just do the most productive thing.
What does your creation process look like, especially now that you're doing more acoustic work?
I think the goal is to be efficient with time. And so what I do is I will record in my notes on my phone, like most musicians probably, just ideas. So like a small chord progression or a song I hear on a TV commercial. Anything I hear that I'm like, oh, okay, that's something I want to glean from. Or this is a progression, I like this part of it, or a riff I write. And it's really just basic, and some of it's trash, but I think it's a quantity thing. Just get as many as I can. Some are really embarrassing, but through that numbers game or whatever, you get like 8 to 10 that you're like, okay, these are songs that I really think have some water and weight that I can carry and move forward with. And then I try to get some lyrics to it, so it's kind of a complete 3-minute thought. And then I try to bring it to people that are better than me, better musicians, better producers, and just say like, hey, you know, what can we do with this? And try and give it its best representation with the budget and time and resources I have.
So I want to kind of focus a little bit more on the current song that we've been working with you on. So can you tell us a little bit about the meaning behind this and where your inspiration came from, what your vision was?
Change the Words was written in a time where someone I love very dearly, was struggling with drugs, and they came out of it and they're doing unbelievable, and it's great now. But at the time, it was like this like betrayal and frustration, and even the way I handled it, or maybe the way I didn't handle it right, for them. Like, it was this song about forgiveness. Like, I want to forgive you, and please forgive me for not maybe doing this the right way. I don't know if anybody knows how to do it, and drugs are a coping mechanism, so you have to be so careful. It was just hyper emotional. So now seeing it from bird's eye view and outside on the other side of it, I'm like, man, I wish it would have been more gentle or sweet or patient, or, you know. So I screwed up a lot, man, getting all teary-eyed again. I struggled a lot with that, right? And I wish I was more kind. And then at the same token, I was mad at them for doing that. Why are you doing this? Like, you ruined everything. You betrayed me. You blew up all of our lives. And at the same time now I'm like, crap, I should have been kinder to you. And so that's what Change the Words was. And then it changed for me again in some ways. It didn't change. It held two meanings then as I got more into my faith. So I grew up more like charismatic Pentecostal. I grew up very emotional in my religion, faith, whatever you want to call it. And then when I started like studying my faith and understanding it more, it was this whole understanding that I don't have to be good enough. There's no good enough. Someone stood in the place for me, and now I am allowed to live and move forward because someone else paid a price for me. And I'm very grateful for grace. It comes with no strings. And that was very hard for me to understand, that my salvation came with no strings attached. I still struggle with that because nothing's free in this world. So it's a very hard concept to grasp. It's easy to say, but it's hard to understand. So anyway, so that song has two meanings for me. And I hope that anyone who listens to it would just disregard what I said, hear it from their own experience, and just make it their own.
It's a really vulnerable song, and you can hear, I think, the emotion behind your voice in it. So I was really curious to hear like what it meant to you. And was it a challenging song to write, or was it more cathartic?
Yeah, I cry at my own shows sometimes. I try not to cry. I don't cry.
Crying's good.
Yeah, I don't cry often, but man,
best thing you can do.
It's weird when you're in front of like 1,000-something kids and you're just like, give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Because if it doesn't mean something, you know, we all are creators. We create, and it's just so much different when it comes from a deep place. And so yeah, it still hits me. Hope is the other song that gets me a lot.
Well, big thank you to Joe for being on today's podcast. I appreciate your time and your insight, and I look forward to hearing more of your music.
Thank you. Thank you for making the time. Appreciate you guys.
Check out Say the Words.
All right, that's a wrap.